Hey everyone, and welcome back to a new video. If you don't know me, my name is Rachel, and it's really great to have you here. We talk about everything on this channel, from feminist issues to kind of liberal social commentary to book reviews and occasionally a little bit of poetry analysis, and it's really nice to have you. So a couple of weeks ago now, I made a video about some creepy comments that Matt Walsh made about kids and consent and how he just doesn't understand what consent is and doesn't understand the importance of it. And since then, people in the comments were telling me that I need to read his attempt at a children's book called Johnny the Walrus. In this book, Matt is attempting to satirize, in a way, other children's books about acceptance and letting kids discover who they really are, and he's critiquing those concepts. He doesn't want kids to be who they are. He doesn't want kids to have self-acceptance. He is, of course, and unsurprisingly, also trying to send an incredibly transphobic message. Matt Walsh hates trans people, and he continually tells the world that trans people are mutilating children, turning the kids trans, and so on. And he perpetuates all these harmful myths and more in this horrific book. Of course, we know none of these things are true, and so, of course, we're going to be addressing them in this video and correcting some of the misconceptions. But first, let's take a look at the book. And I think it's important to remember that, Matt has written this as a children's book to satirize other children's books. But you might say, oh, well, at least he's got an adult audience. But no, he has gone out of his way to read this book to children. It's just teaching them really damn harmful messages.
Okay. Hello, boys and girls. My name is Matt Walsh. I am a children's author, and I've written a book called Johnny the Walrus. This book is all about identity and imagination. What is identity? Does anyone know what identity means?
No.
Do you know? You know what identity is? No? Okay. That's what this book is about. It's all about a boy who pretends to be a walrus. He identifies as a walrus, and his mom's a little silly. She takes it seriously and thinks he really is a walrus. That's silly, isn't it?
So what is this thing doing on the floor?
We don't have to worry about that. We're going to read the book now. Okay. Johnny's a boy with a big imagination. One day he's a dog, the next day a crustacean. It's like a crab or a lobster. His growth was just stunted. I mean, she really thinks this kid is a walrus.
But it's not?
No. The end. Thank you. No, I just sat down and wrote it.
There's another one.
There's another one there. We got a bunch of them. They're going to be all over the place soon enough. You can ask your parents to buy it for you. Is there a particular ending we're looking for here, or just
before we get started, because I always forget to ask, if you're new here, it would be wonderful if you want to subscribe to see more videos from me, and if you've been around a while, just check you're still subscribed, because, that's always really good. But yeah, let's jump into the video. Matt Walsh talks a lot about the left indoctrinating kids and propaganda for kids. That's exactly what he's doing. This is exactly what he's doing with this book. He is a hypocrite. So, the book. This book is so poorly made and illustrated that I genuinely thought I downloaded the wrong version at first. I thought I downloaded the wrong book, I downloaded an earlier draft of it, something had gone wrong, but no, this is just genuinely how the book is. Now, the book is only available as a board book, and I couldn't get that, so I downloaded a copy of it online that was a scan of the book, and now the quality of the scan isn't great, so let's put that aside. The problem I have is with the quality of the illustrations. They are so poor, not just technically, but they're lazily made. It is appalling. I can't believe a man with as much money and resources as Matt Walsh has could hire someone to make this quality of work. He's clearly, Matt is just lazy and cheap, and he has no pride in anything he does. If this book was really illustrated by a 6-year-old as it looks to be, then I apologize. This is great work for a 6-year-old. However, I'm pretty sure it was done by an adult, and for that I have to be a little critical. And mostly, I'm critiquing Matt for choosing to publish this as it is, because it's so damn unprofessional, and he has the resources to make it better. He chose to hire someone. He just chose to hire someone who created poor illustrations of a poor quality that are just lazily done. So let's have a look at the story together. This is Johnny the Walrus. Johnny's a boy with a big imagination. One day he's a dog, the next day a crustacean. I know he's going for rhyming couplets here, which are common amongst children's books, and they're actually fantastic. Kids hearing rhymes and stuff can really help with their understanding of language and development. That's great. However, Customers have said this book is for kids aged 4 to 8, and I feel like crustacean is maybe a little bit too much of a big word for them. The other thing is this is a board book, which is normally given to babies. And again, crustacean isn't normally a word you would see in those kinds of books. So this is just a pet peeve I have. People who think writing a children's book is so easy because it's kids, you can do whatever, you just need to make it simple. But it's not. The people who write the best children's books have a genuine understanding of child development and how their understanding of language grows and develops and how to appeal to them and how to write a book which is going to be educational and enjoyable. Matt doesn't know any of this, so if you want to look at the quality of this book as a children's book, it's just incredibly poor. One morning he came downstairs barking and clapping, with wood spoons for tusks and sock fins a-flapping. "I'm Johnny the Walrus," he said with a roar. "The wood floor's my ocean, the carpet's my shore." Johnny's mum loves her son's make-believe time. You're Johnny the Walrus till you change your mind. And we see in the illustrations, for those of you just listening, that she takes a photo of her son on her phone and posts it on social media. Which again, can we just take a moment for that? Because let's not share kids on social media without their consent, please. You know, Matt is like, yeah, that's the most normal and ordinary thing to do in this. It's like, nah, that's something we should be critiquing and not normalizing in kids' books. But anyway, so then a bunch of negative reactions and angry faces and thumbs down start appearing on the mum's phone. And Matt writes, "But Johnny's mum's phone said it's not just pretend. Only a bigot would say that. How dare you offend?" Okay, so let's take a proper break here to address what's happening so far. So in this, Matt is conveying a story in which a kid dresses up for fun for a game. He pretends to be an animal, a walrus. The mother thinks it's cute. And then those damn liberals, as Matt wants to say, tries to force her and her son to make his costume a permanent identity. Of course, in this, dressing up as a walrus is meant to be an analogy for being trans, which is just offensive in so many ways. Can we not compare trans people to animals, please? It's just, I think that's the bare minimum we can do, right? But other than just that, for one, being transgender is not just dressing up as something or someone, and most trans people are not trans because other people have told them they're trans or forced them into it, and this includes kids. You cannot tell another person they are trans or not. You cannot force a person to be trans or not. Other people cannot decide for an individual what gender they are, and that includes children. Matt seems certain that kids are all indoctrinated and forced into thinking they're a different gender, but all the studies we've ever done prove that this just isn't true. You cannot force a kid to feel like a gender they aren't, whether that's the gender they were assigned at birth or not. So Owl and Fox Fisher wrote a great little book for teens who are questioning their gender identity titled The Trans Teen Survival Guide, which is not a book about forcing anyone to be trans, as Matt would probably try and claim it is, but instead it's a great little book for teenagers who feel like they might be questioning their own gender identity. It tells them that this is the deal with gender, this is what it is, this is what it can mean to some people, this is what it can mean to other people, this is how some people feel about their gender identity, this is how other people feel about it. Everyone has a different experience. If you think you might be feeling a certain way, if you think you might be trans, if you think you're feeling this, and this, then here's how you can find help and support. And if you do conclude that you're trans, here's what options are available to you. This is what some people choose to go through. This is what life is like for these people. Lots of options. It's a really good educational little book for anyone who might be questioning. It's not forcing anyone to do anything or be anything that they're not. It's not telling people you have to do this, and this. It's just saying, hey, here's some options. This is what other people have been through. Here's how we can help you figure it out for yourself. In the book, they note that most kids have an idea of gender and a sense of their own gender by the age of about 3 or 4 years old. And so in a lot of kids who are trans, this is when they might start displaying signs of discomfort or gender dysphoria at having to present as or be labelled as a gender that they're not. So they write, kids who are trans will usually vocalize the fact they are trans, saying that they are in fact a different gender than the one they were assigned. For example, "Mummy, I'm a boy," or "When will I turn into a girl?" And it isn't just one flippant comment. So it's not like in Matt Walsh's book where they just dress up as something one time and it's like, oh, it must be it's a consistent thing. Yeah, it isn't just one flippant comment. They usually insist on this quite often and might even say that they want to cut their genitals off or wish they could grow certain things. It appears as a deep-rooted distress about themselves and their body that is quite persistent. This is way beyond a girl simply being a tomboy or a boy being a bit effeminate. It's about a deep inner sense of self that kids can feel very strongly. And I'll say it again, this isn't about a kid playing dress up once or twice and then a mother saying, oh, this must mean X, Y, and Z, I'm going to force you to do this, this, and this. These kids usually display a level of discomfort or question their identity consistently over a prolonged period of time. These kids don't necessarily know how to vocalize this. They don't know words like transgender. They just know this feels wrong. They know that they're not a boy or a girl, and they question this, they look for support in this, they feel discomfort about this. The Fishers go on to suggest that letting your child explore and experiment with expression is the best thing you can do, and forcing them to wear or do something they don't want is quite distressing for them and can cause harm. And this is something that Matt Walsh does not understand at all. He literally portrays it as like, if you're a liberal parent, then you'll force your kid to present as the opposite gender no matter what they say, and blah, 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 as we'll see in the next part of this book. And I think it's funny because, not funny ha-ha, funny like, oh God, can you believe he's doing this? But it's funny because Matt is critiquing liberal parents in this book because he thinks liberal parents force their kids to be trans against their will, basically. He doesn't realise that what him and other right-wingers are doing is forcing trans kids to present as cis, and that causes harm. So when he's critiquing a mother in this book for forcing her kid to be something they're not, he doesn't realise that that's exactly what he's doing. And that's what causes the harm, forcing a kid to be someone they're not. It's nothing to do with whether they're actually trans or cis or not, it's to do with the forcing the kid. That's where the issue lies. And I would say that most non-transphobic parents who have a kid who is questioning their gender identity isn't going to be forcing them to present in a certain way or do certain things. Just allowing their kid time to explore and figure things out for themselves is the healthiest thing you can do, you know? Matt really pushes in this book and seems to really believe this idea that kids will never be trans if they never hear the word transgender, you know, but we all know that ignorance doesn't replace reality. Kenny Ethan Jones is a trans man who wrote of his own experience. As a child, I didn't know what transness was, but even without the language to put to it, I knew it felt true. I wasn't delusional. I understood the difference between boys and girls. I just felt like somehow society got it wrong when categorizing me. He was a kid who didn't know he was transgender in those words, but he didn't know what being transgender was. He just knew there was something wrong inside him, and he didn't have the words to describe it and get help. And this is why education is so important for kids. Pretending something doesn't exist doesn't make it go away. Just because I don't know the species of a name of flower, for example, that doesn't stop it existing. Just because you don't know you have cancer, that doesn't mean it can't hurt you. Education is essential for getting people who need it help and support. When we can put labels to things, when we have the language to express what we're feeling and thinking and who we are, that's how we get help and support and can be healthy and happy. Ignorance only hurts more people. To go back to Matt's book, we see a bunch of protesters. I think these are meant to be liberal protesters. They have posters saying things like, stop anti-walrusism, let Johnny transition, human walruses are real walruses, Johnny is a real walrus. And Matt writes, Mummy was told to take John for a checkup. You'll need to eat worms and to put on grey makeup, says the doctor, with pink hair. Because of course. The doctor goes on to say, the worms give you whiskers, the grey blends you in, and a simple procedure cuts feet into fins. And the doctor is holding a giant, massive bone saw. And again, if you're only listening to the audio of this, like, they've made the doctor big, scary, they've used horror film lighting to light up their face and make them look creepy, and this is obviously a completely harmful representation of what hormone blockers, hormone replacement therapy, and even physical surgeries are. It's not like this at all. The greys, it seems, it's meant to be like grey makeup to make him more walrusy. I think that's meant to represent clothes and makeup and so on. The eating worms, I think, is obviously meant to be like a hormone replacement therapy analogy. This is all just such a misrepresentation of what it's actually like for trans kids. So I'll reiterate in this story. Johnny, the kid who is being forced to become a walrus, has never said he is a walrus. He has never expressed, I feel like a walrus, I want to be a walrus. He was just playing a game of dress up, So this is not at all actually comparable to kids who are trans and say, I think I'm the wrong gender, I think I'm a boy, a girl, I have no gender. You know what I mean? It's not even comparable. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that this was a book about a kid who said they were a walrus or transgender. Again, this is not what actual treatment for kids is like. Not even a little bit. This is not what care for trans kids is like. And I think it's dangerous to represent it in this way for a couple of reasons. Firstly, let's think about the innocent kids reading this book or listening to Matt read it to them. And they won't understand what this is an analogy for. They won't understand that this is meant to be satirizing trans issues. All this section is teaching them is that doctors are scary and you can't trust them, and that's really damn dangerous, because if these kids do have health problems and do need to see a doctor, they're just going to be petrified and not maybe be able to express what's happening to them. They're not going to be able to get the help that they need, and that's really dangerous. Secondly, it's perpetuating harmful myths about what healthcare is actually like for trans people, and this is just going to make it harder for trans people in the future to get the access to the care that they need. So what are these harmful myths I keep mentioning? Well, for starters in this book, I'd say Johnny looks to be about 5 or 6 years old. Maybe, I'm not sure, I'm bad at judging kids' ages, but I think it's around that. If a kid of 5 or 6 years old ever expressed that they thought they might be transgender, they would never be given hormone blockers, hormone replacement treatments, and they definitely wouldn't be given any gender reassignment surgeries. Just absolutely, to even claim that they would do this to a 5 or 6 year old kid is fear-mongering and false. The kid might speak to some doctors, they might see therapists, they might start getting help, they might start changing the way they dress, they might ask to have different pronouns used for them, but they would never get medical treatment at 5 or 6 years old. The very first treatment that any young person can have who expresses they might be transgender is generally hormone blockers, and these are never given to children until they've actually started puberty. This will be a different time for every individual, but usually it won't be until somewhere between the ages of 12 and 17. And even then, it's not as simple as just showing up and being handed a bunch of medication. There's hoops people have to jump through, there's different treatments, seeing different doctors, going to therapies and all sorts. So Kenny Ethan Jones, who we mentioned a little bit ago, he wrote a great book called Dear Cisgender People, A Guide to Trans Allyship and Empathy, and in it he wrote, "There's a misconception in the media that the NHS is handing out meds to preteens all willy-nilly, but that's not the case. Even being prescribed puberty blockers, which happened the year before my diagnosis, was only granted to me because I'd become suicidal. Don't get me wrong, I'm pleased there are thorough checks in place, but I believe there is a safer way to assess someone's eligibility than the one I went through. It was emotionally torturous having to relive traumatic events in order to prove myself eligible for gender-affirming treatment. I was made to spew out my deepest pain over and over again." Owl and Fox Fisher write more about this and more about the actual process for teens in detail. So they write that puberty blockers, also known as hormone blockers or hormone stoppers, are medicines that have been used for quite some time now. They have been used for all sorts of different things, but in the case of trans people, they are taken to slow down the effects of puberty so that trans teens don't have to go through puberty that could absolutely devastate them. And I'll also say, puberty blockers and puberty stoppers are often given to cisgender kids as well who start puberty too early in a way that could be detrimental to their health or social development or other things. Puberty blockers are gender-affirming care. They are not just care for trans people. Yes, they're gender-affirming for trans people as well, but that could be gender-affirming for cis people as well. People don't really understand what the term gender-affirming means, and that's an issue. Alan Fox Fisher go on to write, "It's about alleviating some of the distress they might feel, i.e. puberty blockers are used to increase the well-being of trans teens and prevent dysphoria, depression, and poor mental health. Puberty blockers can therefore be a lifesaver for trans teens. Puberty blockers can be prescribed at the start of puberty and are prescribed for a few years at a time, or until people are between 16 and 18 years old. Around that age, you can make a decision on whether you want to start cross hormones that will start shaping your body and sex characteristics in a way that you want. Later on, when you're 18, you can make decisions on whether you want to undergo any surgeries. Just remember that you're under no obligation to do so, and that all trans people and their journeys are different." And that's such an important thing to remember that people like Matt Walsh just seem to ignore and forget. They go on to write that a rather persistent and false myth states that trans children and trans teenagers are being given access to cross hormones and surgeries in droves. This couldn't be farther from the truth, as in most countries, trans children and teenagers, and trans people in general, don't even have access to such healthcare. It's only a handful of countries that actually offer services to trans children and teens, and in the UK there are no medical interventions provided until after a teenager hits puberty. And even then, they are certainly not given access to cross hormones that will alter their body, nor are they given any type of surgeries. Instead, those who are able to access the services are given what are called puberty hormone blockers or hormone stoppers, as we've been saying. I feel like I'm saying hormone weird. Sorry, I don't know why. And the thing to remember is that hormone blockers, hormone stoppers are reversible. If you stop taking them, puberty will start again. Your hormones will start producing again as normal. This is not irreversible and irreparable. And if these teens who need them don't get puberty blockers when they need them, then the results can be devastating. We're talking depression, self-harm, suicide, all incredibly common amongst trans kids and teens who are forced to go through puberty against their will and see their body change into someone they're not. And like I say, if a teen is on puberty blockers for a while and realizes, you know what, actually I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not trans, maybe I am, but I'm not ready to take this further. Maybe I just want to give myself a little more time or anything else like that. That is absolutely fine. They don't need to go and start any hormone replacement therapies. They can stop taking puberty blockers and puberty will proceed as biologically normal in their body. It's not cruel, it's not mutilating, it's not being forced on kids. It's simply allowing kids a chance to be who they really are and explore their gender identity for themselves. If you force a kid to go through puberty that they don't want, that can result in permanent changes to the body that can cause lifelong dysphoria. Allowing a teen to have puberty blockers is saying, hey, we're going to put a pause on this until you're ready to decide what you want. Do you want these characteristics or these characteristics? How do you want your body to look and feel and be? We're going to give you time to mature, to grow up, to think about this, and then you can decide when you're older. But we're not going to allow permanent changes to happen that will be irreversible. That's what puberty blockers do. They stop irreversible body changes happening. And most teens who take puberty blockers actually find it so helpful. So this is just one example from the Fisher's book of a 15-year-old boy called Michael who writes, I started hormone blockers when I was 14, just over a year after my first appointment with the doctors he saw. I was already 5 years into puberty at that point, and so most of the changes had already occurred, but it relieved my constant stress about the situation worsening. The cessation of my periods was the best part, as they'd always been excruciatingly painful for me, both mentally because of dysphoria, and physically. The fact that I no longer experience something that the vast majority of girls in my year, but not the boys do, is often greatly comforting to me. And I just wish Matt would listen to these stories of actual trans kids, and because that's the thing, I can sit here as a cis woman and be like, but my opinion doesn't really matter, does it? What I'm here to do is lift up these voices of actual trans people who are speaking about this and talking about it and be like, listen to them. That's my job here. But again, Matt won't listen to these people and he doesn't portray this in his book. To carry on, Johnny says, it's gross eating worms, mum. They're also damn twitchy. Oh, dang twitchy, sorry, with a G, because he's a kid. Wood spoons kind of hurt and the makeup is itchy. So again, I'm going to say, clearly this is not the kid's choice. This is not what he wants. It's been forced upon him. So this is not a good analogy for trans kids at all. If anything, this is more of an analogy for trans kids being forced to present as cis. You know what I mean? The book goes on and Matt writes, deep down, Johnny's mum knew something was wrong, but she felt so much pressure she just went along. The internet people knew just what to do, and Mummy was told to take John to the zoo. When Johnny arrived, the walruses grunted. My boy's a real walrus. His growth was just stunted. The zookeeper thought, what's she talking about? And then the zookeeper says, Mom, that's just a boy with wood spoons in his mouth. The mum says, but if I believe that, they'll say I'm phobic. And the zookeeper says, protecting your son, Ma'am, that's what's most heroic. And I did have to laugh at Matt Walsh basing the zookeeper character's look off himself. He's so this is just a self-insert for him, oh, I'm going to be the hero of this story. It's very silly. That said, this is the one good page, if you rip it out of the book and leave it alone, Just stand alone. This is the one page in the book that's actually good. Protecting your child is what's most heroic. That's a great sentiment, and I completely agree with it. You just shouldn't listen to anything Matt Walsh says in order to do this, because this book is not about protecting kids. He's not about protecting kids. He doesn't even care about kids' consent. Matt is not protecting children. Matt is forcing children to be something that he wants them to be, against their will often. And that's not heroic. That's not protecting them. Protecting your child does not mean forcing a gender identity upon them, whether this is the one they're assigned at birth or not. Protecting them means allowing them the freedom to figure out for themselves who they are, while you offer your love and support and don't allow other people to bully and oppress them. That's what protecting your kid is. That's what being heroic is. That's what being a decent parent is. As the Trans Teen Survival Guide says, not being able to express yourself and be your authentic self can be extremely traumatizing for trans kids, and they really need support. Trans kids who don't get support end up feeling very distressed and depressed and might develop other mental health issues or even try to take their own lives. Without wanting to sound too serious or dramatic, it really is a matter of life and death for trans people. It's really a matter of wanting to have a child who is allowed to be themselves and feel happy, as opposed to suppressing them and forcing them to internalize this, causing serious negative effects on their mental health and inner turmoil. As Kenny reminds us in his book, transphobic hate crimes in the UK quadrupled between 2015 and 2020. In 2022, Medical News Today reported that transgender adolescents were 7.6 times as likely to attempt suicide as their cis peers. The situation is even more concerning for those in the Black trans community who experience homelessness at 5 times the rate of the general population. And I bring these up to point out that if people listen to Matt Walsh and force their kids to be people that they're not, then they may be literally driving their children to suicide, driving their children to homelessness, driving their children to pain and suffering and oppression at the hands of other people as well as themselves. It is that serious. And I don't see how any decent parent would want that for their child. The book ends with a picture of the mother taking the spoons out of the kid's mouth and says, "At last, Johnny's mummy was able to see that Johnny is not what he's pretending to be. Now mummy ignores the mean things on her phone, while Johnny pretends he's a bird flying home." And this is where the book ends, with Matt's insinuation that trans people are just pretending to be whatever gender they are, which we obviously know is not true. The underlying problem in all this, though, is that Matt Walsh has lived such a privileged life, and he fundamentally lacks empathy for other people. So he can't imagine anyone in this world having a different experience to him or different values to him. And so when anyone says, "Well, I have a different experience to you," he just mocks them and belittles them and puts them down and bullies them to the point where he is oppressing and hurting these people. He looks at a trans woman and thinks, well, we both started off being assigned male, but I don't want to be a woman, so they must be pretending. And that's just the most insane logic, because he just doesn't have empathy for other people. He can't put himself in other people's shoes. He can't see that other people don't have the same experiences as him. I think instead he needs to reframe the way he's thinking, and instead think about like him himself as he is now and how he feels about his gender identity and who he is as a man. And start thinking, well, what if you were actually assigned female at birth? What if you were born with a vagina, for example? What if you were born and assigned a woman and had to go through female puberty and have periods and grow breasts, for example? But in your mind, you were still Matt Walsh and you were still a man and you still wanted your beard and your muscles and your penis, assuming he has one. I'm not sure at this point. But I joke. But I think he needs to reframe it in that way and understand that if he was suddenly in a woman's body and going through everything a woman does, but he knew he was a man, he'd feel wrong, wouldn't he? He'd feel messed up. And that's what it's like for trans people. It's not about pretending. That's not how bodies and biology work. And I always find it really interesting when people start talking about like biological males and females and this and this. And I'm like, do you not realize that the stuff that's going on in your brain is part of your biology? So when a person is transgender, they may, how do I put this? They may be in some ways sexually male or female. They may have certain genitals. They may have certain chromosomes. They may have certain hormones that their body is producing. But their brain is saying, I'm X gender, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm whatever. And with your brain telling you that, and every part of your consciousness screaming, this is who I am, that is a part of your biology. You know what I mean? So, good girl. I think you can be, for example, biologically male and biologically a woman at the same time, or biologically female and biologically a man. Do you know what I mean? What's happening in your head is still a part of your biology. It's still real. And I just feel like this is something that so many people forget. They seem to think that, oh, you know, if your head's telling you something, if you're having these feelings or whatever, like, it can't be real. I'm like, yes, but it is. It is real. And I've spoken about it before, but there's whole studies that show that, like, the entire brain structure and brain chemistry of trans people is more aligned with the gender they feel they are than the gender they were assigned at birth. So trans men have more typically male, if you want to put it that way, brains than obviously like a cisgender woman does. So their brains are male, you know? It's anyway. So it could be argued that their brains are in fact male because they're men. Do you know what I mean? Anyway. My point is, Matt Walsh is dumb and lacks empathy, and he is indoctrinating children, and he should be kept away from all kids forever because he is creepy as hell and we don't like him. But that's where I'm going to end this video today. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I know this was a shorter video, but I just wanted to talk about this because it's ridiculous. And yeah, I appreciate your support. If you want to see more about me and my life and what I'm doing, I've been doing some really cool stuff lately, photographing some great bands and shows and things like that. Then you can follow me over on Instagram at Rachel Oates with a 0. My new book, Outside, is available now, and I'm really, really excited about it. It's an amazing, almost 300-page collection of photography, paintings, short essays and poetry, and it's my baby. I've worked so hard on this and it's absolutely terrifying putting it out into the world, but I'm finally feeling brave enough to share it with you guys. So if you want to get a copy of that, you can do. It's available as a hardback, which also comes with a code, so you can download a free audiobook version of it from my website, or you can get it as an ebook. And it's available on all Amazons that I could make it available on. They deal with the printing and fulfillment for me, so yeah, there you go. Sometimes these serious topics do get demonetized by YouTube, so if you want to keep seeing me make videos like this, then you can support me over on Patreon for as little as £1 or $1 a month. I try and keep it all as cheap as possible, and I also post things like extra photos over there, sometimes script notes. There's some little extra like arty videos and stuff like that, and yeah. And at the higher tiers, you can also get exclusive stickers and photography and art prints sent out to you every couple of months. So it's really fun and I love it. And anyway, that is me done for today. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you all again really, really soon.